So my name is Chris Healy. I head up MBA recruitment at Alliance Manchester Business School, suite of MBA programs. So that consists of our 2 professional MBAs, which are aimed for people who want to continue to work full-time. And of course, it also includes our full-time MBA program, which we are here to discuss today. The full-time MBA at Alliance Manchester Business School is considered the flagship program of AMBS, where we look to recruit a class of about 100 of what we deem to be some of the very best MBA applicants from around the world on any given year. And we're delighted that today that we're going to be having 3 of our alumni join us. Nan and myself, we can speak for hours upon hours about MBA programs and the Manchester MBA, and we can give valuable information to prospective students such as yourselves. But what we can't do is we can't give you that really deep insight into what life is like as an actual student. And that's where our fantastic alumni can come into play. So we're going to start with all 3 of you introducing yourselves, please. But I'll just to get the introductions right. So what we're going to do is we can start with who you are, where you're from, what did you do before your MBA, which clients you worked with on your, say, projects or internships during your MBA, and what is it that you do now, just to give the audience a real flavour of who you are. So we're going to start, so we'll go, as I see you on my screen, Stefania, Jawad, and then finally, Luis. Over to you, Stefania.
Perfect, thank you. My name is Stefania Miravalle. I'm from Italy. And before my MBA, I was working in Italy as a logistics analyst. And my client during the MBA was the most relevant, at least, was HSBC. And I did my internship with Amazon. So I then I got a full-time offer. I stayed in Amazon for 6 years. And now I moved into McKinsey. That's it for me.
And over to you, Jawad.
Thanks, Stefania. Hi, everyone. So I'm Jawad Sheikh. I'm originally from India. Before my MBA, I used to work in the real estate industry as a project management consultant for a company called Jones Lang LaSalle. Some of the clients I worked with back in India was sort of investment banks and Google. So I think that was one of the reasons I decided to do an MBA, to try and see if I can move into the corporate finance industry. Came over to do the MBA at Manchester School. Some of the clients I worked on during the MBA as part of the MBA projects was a not-for-profit client for the blind and other disabilities. I did my commercial business project for a private equity up in Manchester. My international business project was another mineral tech startup based in Manchester. And now I work for Jaguar Land Rover in the automotive industry in the strategy team as part of a team called Strategic Partnerships and Corporate Development.
Now it's my turn. Hi, everyone. I am Luis Hernandez. I am originally from Peru. And I was working in the construction industry before the MBA. I don't know if you're familiarized with that industry, but it's really tough, specifically in Peru. And then I decided to do the MBA because I wanted to know more about the financial aspects, how to run a business, how to maintain it, and learn a bit more of how to do consultancy. The MBA gave me that chance to learn through the live projects that we did through the whole MBA. And then I did the internship with RPS Group, which is an environmental consulting company. And then I got the full-time offer with them, and I'm working with them here in Manchester. I'm based in Manchester. It's really important. It's really good because I'm involved in the offshore wind farm projects that are happening here in Europe. I'm looking at the project controls aspects in the company. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you very much to the three of you. And I like there, Lewis, how you actually touched on why you wanted to do the MBA, and a bit of why the Manchester MBA. And actually, I think Jawad and Stefania, I think that would be also a relevant question for the two of you in terms of why you selected the Manchester MBA, when of course both of you would have had a wealth of other business schools to choose from, but both of you selected the Manchester MBA. So we'll start with you there, Jawad, and then I'll move to you, Stefania.
Sure, Chris. So I decided to do an MBA because I realized that I had a bit more of a business acumen. And as I touched upon, I wanted to try and see if I can move from the real estate industry to corporate finance. The reason I sort of came to Manchester and what really sort of attracted me was the opportunity, which is sort of really the USP of the Manchester MBA, about working with real life clients as your sort of 3 consultancy projects. I think to me that was quite a big attraction in terms of, while you're doing your modules and you're doing your theoretical studies, but to then able to apply that in the real world with the clients. I also really, the other thing that attracted me was the flexibility that the Manchester MBA offered in terms of doing your course in 12, 15, or 18 months. I think to me that was again a very big plus point in terms of my decision making. And yeah, if I'm being cheeky, at the end of the day, I did get a scholarship offer from Manchester MBA, which was quite the pull as well.
Excellent. And for you, Stefania?
Yeah, so for me, I wanted to change country. So I was looking to MBAs out of Italy. And the reason I had my good Excel file with all the schools and the pros and cons. And the reason why Manchester was at the top was a combination of different parameters that you can imagine, but including the ranking of the school, the quality of the curriculum. So you can see the curriculum on the website, and I remember I did a lot of research on content, what I'm going to learn. The exposure to real life clients, and for me also the quality price ratio was the highest for the Manchester Business School.
Thank you, Stefania. Interesting there that you mentioned about wanting to do an MBA outside of Italy. All three of you have moved outside of your respective home countries to undertake an MBA and are now working outside of your respective home countries. And that resonates when I look at last year's class, where 80% of students changed location after they graduated. So we very much do appeal to those people who are globally curious professionals who want more international experience. Lewis, I'm going to come to you now because you only fairly recently graduated, and hopefully this will be fairly fresh in your mind. And I'm just wondering if you can give maybe just a brief overview to the audience in terms of what a typical week on the Manchester MBA looks like. Stefania touched there on the research she put into the courses. Jawad, of course, touched on some of the consultancy projects. But yeah, if you can bring all that together, please, I think that would be really useful for the audience.
Yeah, sure. So just to give you a little bit of heads up is that I started the MBA in 2020. So all of you might know what happened during COVID times. We were doing the MBA remotely at the beginning. However, everything started to be opened, at least for us, to go to the school in April 2021. And since then, we started to have like a normal class environment where we were going to the school, staying there after the classes and learning or studying all the things that we were looking at that time. So actually, the normal weekdays, I would say, that was basically studying since Monday, going to the school, having the classes or the lectures in the mornings, and then work in the projects that we were doing at that time. I remember that we were doing the M&A, we were doing the CBP. So we needed to basically have lunch with people there, with the whole team, and then have some times to plan what is going to be the actions, do some work in the university. It was basically really not entirely demanding, but you needed to do a lot of time management skills. So we were like planning exactly what we wanted to do in the whole team, because the MBA at least is a lot of teamwork that you need to do. It's not just you. Of course, you need to give time for doing your own assignments, to study the things that you needed to study, because I remember that even we created some groups to study all together, specifically with the specialists. Because, for example, my background is not finance, but when we were checking some finance classes, we had a group with people to study with, and the person that was moderating these group studies was someone who had the specialist on that matter. So that's why we were having this kind of studies groups that were really good, because I learned a lot from them and also from the classes. But that's, I would say, that typically week, and then on the weekends it's just to catch up with people that are not working with you, and try to explore Manchester and England and other parts of the UK as well. So it's quite entertaining, because everyone has kind of the same objective, right? Which is study and also meet people, get to know each other. And then, yeah, basically that's my experience so far that I had in the MBA, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you there, Lewis. I think you've touched on a really interesting point there that can often be overlooked, more on the social side of things as well. You know, I'm just looking at the current class. I know I think it was last week or the week before that, some of our Indian students held a Diwali party for the entire class. And you know, when you have students from all over the world, I think many of them really appreciated that. Jawad, sticking on this theme of students perhaps from all over the world, and you know that point I made about Diwali nights. You've been from India, will be familiar with that. What did you feel when you first stepped on to the Manchester MBA, and when you looked at your cohort, and also then when you began working with that cohort? Because one of the things from our perspective anyway, and by all means, Jawad, correct me if I'm wrong, we do try to recruit a diverse set of individuals, not just from geography, but also in terms of their skills and expertise. You know, we don't want, for example, 100 accountants or 100 engineers on the program. Of course, we do want accountants, we do want engineers, but we also want sales and marketing people. We want IT professionals, etc. So can you give an insight in terms of your class and what that looked like for you?
Yeah, sure, Chris. And I like the fact we sort of touched upon the diversity element. I think, and I often tell people now as well, one of the things that really that I sort of as a key takeaways from the MBA, I still sort of rank higher is the diverse group of people I've met. Sorry, from all walks of life. I think for our class, to be specific, we had about, let's say, 106 people, about almost a 50-50 ratio between men and women. I think we had about 30 nationalities represented our class. And again, from quite a wide age and range of experiences. I think I was on the younger end, one of the youngest, but I work with some fantastic people from all parts of the world, and that's the sort of key takeaway. I still go back and I still have sort of fantastic MBA cohorts from my classmates who are now successful leaders in different parts of the world, and it's always good to catch them up for a coffee. And it sort of really broadens your horizon and perspective when you interact with people from different walks and parts of the life. There's obviously a sense of novelty where you get to experience, especially in the first term, with, as you just said, different socials and experiencing different cultures. But then you get into a rhythm of also sort of learning how different people work together. And as Lewis referenced, right, sometimes you have a certain skills, and it's just a good gel to find that teamwork and collaboration of different people bringing different skill sets as you try and tackle business problems on your projects.
Excellent. And Stefania, you know, as we've all mentioned, I think already, Alliance Manchester Business School is very much a global business school, and you know, one of the things I didn't necessarily touch on earlier is how we've got some of our executive MBA campuses across the world in Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore, Shanghai. So there's all different types of dimensions to the global nature of AMBS and the Manchester MBA. So I'm curious, Stefania, what international exposure, if any, did you receive on the Manchester MBA?
So to be honest, I did an exchange. So I did not attend the Manchester MBA campuses abroad. However, I spent 3 months at McGill in Canada, which you might know it. It's a very good school. It was a spectacular experience. It was December, so I tested first time -40. But I thought it was a very valuable part of my MBA. I did classes specific on finance over there, and I have to say I studied a lot. It was quite difficult, but apart from that, you know, I met fantastic people, and I still am in touch with some of the people from McGill University. So that is my experience. I don't know if Jawad or Lewis have attended other.
Just before and Jawad, Lewis, by all means jump in momentarily, but I just want to go back to Stefania with one follow-up question, please. You mentioned you did your international business consultancy with HSBC, is that right?
Yeah, that's it.
Was there an international component to that project?
Yes, there was. It was a very cool project. I did so basically after Brexit, HSBC was looking to see if it was convenient or not to move some of the headquarters to Paris. So we did several expeditions to Paris. You know, we interviewed more than 100 of employees asking if they would accept you know, transferal bonus, or what would be their idea about moving to Paris. And it was very challenging project, but you know, it was delivered happily. And we spent quite a lot of time in Paris talking with our stakeholders over there.
Excellent.
And I want to say one more thing that is very important for the MBA. There is an event called MBAT that I was the biggest fan. I think I've trained for 1 year to go to MBAT. It's basically meeting across several MBAs across all world in Paris. I think it's at HEC headquarters. And there is competition of dozens of sports. The Manchester Business School is also next to a good climbing center and next to a sports center. So if you can find time, you can train, and then you can compete against students all over the world, and obviously have a lot of parties.
Definitely, I think Stefania MBA was, and it's a major highlight of the class. I remember, yeah, even my class, it's just a good time. Yeah, it's a lot of excitement around it.
Was there anything, Lewis, that you wanted to touch on with regards to the international components there? You don't have
Yes.
to. Okay.
No, for sure. I took the study tour in Dubai, and it was really amazing experience for all of us. We were like about 17 of the whole class who went to Dubai, and it was after lockdown. So can you imagine even how funny it was for all of us to be together after a long time? But it was really good. The university, it was the study tour, just to give you a bit of, well, a brief summary of how is that about. It's basically 5 days where you have 3 days of workshops talking about how you manage international projects, where you go to campus and then you just learn with the lecturer there about general things. And then you also go in 2 days to visit some companies in Dubai, and get to know the city, of course, explore the city a little bit with the university. And then it's up to you if you want to stay more time or no. We decided to stay 1 more week just for exploring and have fun. So it was a really lovely experience for all of us. We definitely enjoyed it. And also the university made some networking in Dubai, a networking event where we met people, alumni, of course, with really amazing jobs, amazing positions in really big companies in Dubai, which was really helpful to increase our network. I'm still getting in touch with one guy who actually was working in a construction company in Dubai. So, but it's nice because you get to know people, and that's as well another valuable thing from the MBA, the alumni that it has.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you to the three of you there. So, just to recap to the audience there. So we've got Stefania, who did an international exchange in Canada. Her project being with HSBC, with the international components being in France. Jawad and Stefania mentioned on the social aspect there as well, with MBAT, with other business schools across the world. And then Lewis making an excellent point about the study tour that we offer in Dubai. One of the reasons we do offer that in Dubai is because we have been in the Middle East since 2004, 2005. And because of the strength of the alumni network there we believe we are able to offer something quite unique to our students. And as I alluded to earlier, our students can also choose to take electives at some of our global campuses if they want, with our executive MBA students. And maybe to move away from the international component side now, Jawad, but maybe sticking with electives. I've had a couple of really in-depth recent conversations with prospective applicants for 2025. And they're very impressed by what they've looked at on our website with a suite of electives that we are able to offer. I've gone into different scenarios with them where, if one person wants to focus purely on finance, then, they could do that by picking a variety of finance-based electives. If someone wanted to focus purely on, marketing, they could do that. So I'm curious, Jawad, how did you go about selecting your electives on the MBA program?
Sure. So I think Chris, just as you were sort of referencing, I went down a similar path. So my focus was was more on the strategy and finance elements, because that's where I wanted to sort of go post MBA. So I focused on the electives that made the most sense. And you're right, it's quite a wide berth of electives. but it's also sort of stuff that's new, right? It's what's happening in the world in line with the times. I remember the first elective I did was around digital currencies and blockchains, because I wanted to get some understanding around that. Really enjoyed that elective. Did an elective on portfolio and investment management, because that was the one that appealed, sort of had a very sort of strong finance focus to it for my future prospects. And then also did my final elective on platform ecosystem strategies. I think, yes, again, because again, that kicked off the mark of strategy. So that's how I sort of went. The focus on electives where it made sense from my future prospects, but also sort of keeping in just one elective to sort of learn something new, find an interesting topic that learn something new about that you've got no background in.
Excellent. Thank you. A number of you have already touched on the projects. Stefania, you also gave some nice insights there into what your actual project involved at HSBC, which I think will be really useful which was really useful for the audience. But I'm going to ask you now, Stefania, to maybe cast your mind back to perhaps even before the start of that project, and maybe give an insight to the audience with regards to how the bidding process for these projects and how that works. Are you just given HSBC as a client, as an individual? Of course, I know the answers to these, but yeah. But over to you.
Yes, so the bidding process works like this. If I will remember, the clients give you a page where they describe briefly what they need, what they're looking for in their project. What happens is that groups that are interested in that project, they prepare a bid. So they describe how they will tackle that problem. And then they have a short interview with the client to explain what is their approach to solve the problem. And then the client will pick and choose the one that they feel best fit what they're looking for. Is that still the case? Is that still the same?
It is. Luis, did you would you be able to echo Stefania's words? Any differences from your side?
No, actually, it's exactly the same process that happened in my class, and definitely during the interview, you need to give basically a brief summary of how you will tackle the problem, as Stefania said. And of course, the client can go to the university, it could be remotely, or you can go to client offices as well. So it's really entertaining because it's show basically how you how knowledge you have for this problem, and if you understand exactly what's the business problem. And that's the difficult part, because it could say something in the brief, but then the reality is that the client wanted to do another thing. So you need to go to a really deep analysis of what is that project brief about.
Thanks.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
So Stefania mentioned about HSBC as the international business consultancy project client, and generally speaking, when it comes to our commercial business consultancy project, we tend to work with startups and SMEs. Now, Luis, was it a startup or SME that you did your commercial business consultancy with?
It was an SME, so it was a company that it's an engineering company that was looking to implement some processes specifically for improvements the back office by implementing an ERP system. It was a construction company, but for these towers of telecommunication in the whole UK. So it was really interesting because I had the experience, and with my team we planned a really good solution for them. We conduct a lot of interviews, and it was really entertaining because we needed to go to the client offices as well. That was south of England. And then we met the CEO. We of course had dinner. So definitely, it's a consulting services that we are providing for them, and it feels completely real. It's real basically, but it was really good. Yeah.
Excellent. Howard, did you want to jump in on anything there? I do have a question for you, which is somewhat related to projects, but if you do want to add anything, by all means do before I get to my question.
No, I just going to add in. So for us, it's not just because sometimes, as I said, majority tend to be startups and SMEs on the commercial, but sometimes you have big ticket companies as well locally. So I had the fortune of working with doing my commercial business project for a private equity up in Manchester, a big name private equity in Manchester, sort of originate deals for them, which was quite the fancy as well, getting insight into that part of the world. So you do get a broad range of clientele across both the commercial business and international business projects.
Thank you very much for that insight as well, Howard. And I'm gonna stick with you on this one. We've spoken a lot there about the real. I think Lewis used the words real life or real business a few minutes ago, which is very much what our consultancy projects are all about, and I think a key highlight of our MBA program. Now, of course, we do also have one project which we haven't touched on, which isn't live, is a simulated one, which is the mergers and acquisitions project. Many of our students, not all, and perhaps maybe not you, Jared, because I know you've got maybe a keen interest in this, but people will often say the mergers and acquisitions can often be one of the most challenging aspects of the program. Can you give an insight to the audience about the M&A project, please?
Sure. So I guess, Chris, it's something the class you still do in your second term, the M&A simulations, while it's not real life, it's very much affected and based on real life facts. So what's going on in the market, what's the share price doing, and everything. And I think the M&A project really is a key platform to sort of for you to apply the corporate finance skills that you learn theoretically, how to value a company, how to go about. It also sort of teaches you how to negotiate and then sort of how to take away. So what you're basically doing as part of the M&A simulation is you're acting as a company that needs to, and you need to decide based on the company you are, what company would make the most sense for you to go out and acquire. And it's based on real life term, based on how much money you've got on your balance sheet, what you can afford to pay, how you can negotiate, and establishing what the synergies are. Yes, it can be daunting, especially if you're not very good with maths and finance, but that's where you do it as a group. And that's where, again, going back to what Lewis was elevating, a core principle of the Manchester MBA is collaboration. So while you might not be comfortable with the quantitative aspects of it, you can always lean on your teammates to take care of that part, while you can add, from a point of view, the qualitative side of it, the synergies, the negotiations, and other things. So yeah, it's quite an experience. It personally, as you touched upon, because it played into my area, field of interest. So for me personally, it was my favorite project out of all the four things.
Excellent. Stefania.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I did a real life M&A project with McKinsey, and I could apply some of the learnings of the class, but also B, I thought the M&A project with the school was better done than the one in real life. So obviously we had a bit more time than real life McKinsey, where they wanted an answer in 48 hours, but there was a lot of learning applied in real life, for real.
Also, and I don't know the answer from the three of you here, So it might be a no. Because again, I'm going back to some conversations I've already had this week with some applicants and prospective applicants. Did any of you take part in any of the competitions whilst on the MBA? Jawad, Lewis, or Stefania?
I can go first, Chris. So I had the fortune, we took part in a climate investment challenge, the Global Climate Investment Challenge during, so it's a mixture of sustainability finance, the idea being you come up with a sustainability idea and then you sort of go about how you can finance it and how it sort of deliver returns as well, not just sustainable returns, but commercial and investment returns. So yeah, it was a fantastic mix of sustainability and finance. We were fortunate when we did it, and again, I give all the credit of this to sort of the Zara and Solange who led it from our team. But from the 200 global business schools that applied, we made it to the top finalists that year. We went down and presented our ideas to a panel of investment bankers, private equity investors, and otherwise, and we finished. I think we finished fourth that year. Just missed out on the top three, but hey, we finished above Harvard, so that's something I always brag about.
That's great. Is that would anyone else like to add anything on competitions, or am I okay to move on?
Yes, I did the competition. I can't remember the title of the competition, but it was about presenting your startup ideas. And we made it to North Carolina. We went to US. And I think we arrived second. And they were the first, unfortunately, was getting real money. And we were the second, but it was very cool.
Excellent. So even more international experience there, Stefania, that we didn't touch on earlier.
I didn't remember before.
So I think, well, this question is going to be for all three of you. I'm going to start with you, Lewis, and it's going to be about, because if you're doing an MBA, you are of course thinking about what's going to be happening post MBA. What is it that you're going to get out of it? I think the three of you have already alluded to, change of location was of interest or important for you. So the question is, how did you secure your full-time role post graduation? So we will go Luis, Jawad, and then Stefania.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned when I was doing my introductions, I started to work at RPS as an intern. So it was a project-based internship, and I started to work for them, and they liked my work during those 3 months, and they decided to extend that internship part-time because I was still studying in my second year of the MBA. And then I was doing the intern until the end of the MBA, and they offered me the full-time job. But basically, they didn't have a position for me, but they opened for the position for me, so because they really like all my work, and then that's how I get this position, and I'm working at the company actually for now 3.5 years, which is quite a long time. And I really enjoyed it, and definitely I would say that PCS support a lot during this process at the beginning, specifically during the interview, because with PCS you can do a lot of simulations of interviews, and of course, not being English, not being your native language, it might be difficult at the beginning to do the interviews. So that's why I was doing a lot of mocks with PCS team to be prepared for these interviews. It worked really well. Yeah, now I'm in the company for quite a long time working with them.
Excellent.
Chris. Yeah, so Chris, I can sort of, I think I went through all the three processes that PCS sort of refers to. There's an active approach and there's a passive approach. So I was fortunate enough towards sort of the MBA to have a couple of options. one of the options was just as Lewis said, where I interned with a venture capital down in London, did my internship with them. I could have sort of continued there as my full-time role. The second option was, as PCS said, I spent a lot of time during my MBA. And again, this is also a part of going back to the first question of Louise is, your career and your career growth is part of your calendar, is part of your diary. That's something you do during the week, sort of how to go about your internship and full-time hunt and work with PCS. So working through that, building my relationships over the course of the year, through those professional networking and relationship building, I could have joined a private equity up in Manchester as well. And then the passive approach was, developing those skills and looking out for job opportunities in the advertised job markets, and then tailoring your application to it, which was this job that I currently have. And the only reason I picked this job of the three was I loved cars racing growing up, but it was the kind of role that I wanted to do investments and deals post MBA. So it was the best of both world situations, and that's the one I picked. So yeah, there's many ways you could go about it, and then sort of PCS has always sort of help you navigate the market that way. But yeah, you do have to put in the effort yourself as well.
Absolutely. Stefania?
I needed to unmute myself. So I didn't know exactly what to do after the MBA, so I applied a bit randomly, to be honest, a wide range of company. But I found very helpful the team. There is local team that train you how to face interviews. For example, the gentleman from PCS that helped me was called Esteban. I think he's not there anymore, but he really trained me how to face the Amazon interview. So I passed that one, and it was the first offer I got. I'm like, great, that sounds fantastic to me. I'm gonna take it. So I didn't apply to anything else. I did my internship there, and I worked super hard. I'm not gonna say how many hours I work per week because that's probably illegal in the UK. But at the end of the internship, I had a full-time offer. So 6 months before, no, sorry, 3 months before finishing my MBA, I already had the offer from Amazon for the full-time job. And I also asked if any of you is interested in Amazon, you can ask to defer your starting date. So I took a few months holiday after my MBA, and I knew already I had a full-time job, so I was totally chill out.
That's great. And I like the way the three of you spoke about our postgraduate career service team there. Looking at the Financial Times MBA rankings of 2024, we'll see that they are ranked 6th in the world and 1st in Europe as a rank for an MBA careers service team. So for all you prospective applicants who are on this webinar, rest assured that you will have full access to that excellent team. But also do remember Jawad's words, which are very, very true in the sense of you also have to work very hard as individuals as well in order to secure that post MBA role. This has been great, and I am just a bit conscious of the time because I know the three of you are very, very busy people. Do the three of you have a couple more minutes, or do we need to do a hard stop?
I have a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to reply to
Yeah,
one of the
likewise.
question in the chat, if possible.
Yeah.
There is a lady called Rutuja who asked about the clubs, and I thought it was a good question.
That's right. It is a good question.
And I did reply to her, but for the benefit of everyone, I think there is more clubs than what you can physically attend. And I remember I was super enthusiastic about the clubs. We don't have that in Italy, so I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I think I did the tech club, and then there was a Latin club that year where you could go dancing. Then there was a consulting club where you could train for consulting cases. And I was in charge with Francisco of the sport club, where we were organizing every week a couple of sessions, either in the swimming pool or in the gym or in the climbing center. So it was super cool.
Yeah, and you know the clubs one is a good point. I was actually I said something very similar to you, Stefania, on I think it was a Thursday or Friday last week when I said there's so much you can do that you need to almost have some time management skills to go, well, I can't be in every single club. You do want to commit. Jawad and Lewis, I know that was slightly different for you because of the year that you joined, but is there anything that you can add to what Stefania has said there? Or I'm going to do a final question for all three of you.
No, I think as Fanny said, so for the clubs itself, yes, they are predominantly student-run clubs alongside PCS, and it's really your opportunity to sort of how to shape the events and what you want to get out of it. That's what
Okay. So to the audience, I'm going to ask one more question to the group before I let them leave, and then Nan and myself are going to stay online. And we're going to get to some of your questions. And I see you see that, you know, there's a number of questions about admissions, scholarships, etc., which we will get to. So, Lewis, we will start with you, and then to you, Jawad, and we will finish with you, Stefania. If you've got one piece of MBA advice for prospective applicants, what would that one piece of advice be for you? Apologies, Stefania, ahead of time if Lewis and Jawad take away your answers.
I would say that it might be a really difficult decision for you to take. Maybe you might be afraid of if I will get a job or no. It could be difficult if I go to a different country and then find a job there. It's gonna be a challenge process. I would say that it's entirely up to you. If you are really committed to have an MBA and are really committed to find a job and you're really committed to work hard, because this is about working hard, and put 100%, 101% on this MBA, always give more, this is the right MBA for you. You need to remember that the only things that you can achieve, it depends entirely on you, not in the MBA, not in the not entirely. I would say that the MBA is a really principal aspect. Of course, Manchester University will give you the tools, but it's up to you to know how to use it. So you can't do it if you are committed to do it, and definitely it's up to you guys, and best of luck if you take that decision. Definitely relied on the alumni a lot, speak with them, learn from the experience, learn from people who had lived this process before, and everything will be fine.
Excellent. Thank you. Jawad?
I'll just sort of echo very much what Lewis just said. For me, it's, you know, to just sort of add on to that is, yeah, MBA is a very big investment. It's a very big decision, part of your life. So make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and are willing to put the effort behind it, as Lewis said. It's all on you, and have that self-belief and take that leap of faith if you're doing it for the right reasons. And when you get to the MBA and when you are on the MBA, make sure you have fun. I'd say it's very important to have fun. You know, trophies are nothing but empty cups if you never really had any fun getting them. So it's once in a lifetime experience. So amidst everything, don't lose sight of the goal, but make sure you have your fun along the way, because it's quite a fun thing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be very original here, but the point for me is the more you put in, the more you get out. So if you want just to survive, you can probably survive with MBA, but the more you invest on reading the books and studying and learning really the subject, or, you know, enjoying the sport facilities, I want to insist that, the more you get out of it. So it's really, you make your own MBA.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stefania, Jawad, and Luis. Some excellent insights all three of you gave there, and I'm convinced that the audience would echo my words, and I'm sure it's been very, very valuable for them. So thank you very much for helping Nan, myself, and the Manchester MBA program out this afternoon. So on that note, the three of you are welcome to leave, carry on with your busy jobs. And to the rest of the audience, as I said, Nan and myself are going to stick around, and we're going to get down to answering some of the other questions in the chat. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.